What if I told you that the only thing blocking money from flowing into your life is not lack of opportunities, not the economy, not your education, but the absence of something so simple that you practice every day without realizing it? And when you change, this money begins to flow in ways you never imagined possible. In the next few minutes, you are going to discover why millions of people work hard every day and remain stuck in the same financial situation while others seem to attract money effortlessly. And it is not luck, it is not privilege, it is not connections. It is something much deeper that has to do with how your brain is programmed right now to repel or attract abundance. And when you understand this mechanism, everything changes. If you want to be part of this group of people who are rediscovering how money really works, subscribe to the channel now, because every week I bring content that will unlock areas of your mind that are stuck without you knowing, and believe me, you will want to follow this journey from the beginning. Let us start with an inconvenient truth that nobody wants to hear, but that needs to be said. If you are constantly complaining about lack of money, lack of opportunities, lack of luck, you are literally programming your brain to see only lack. And here is the problem: when your brain is tuned to the frequency of lack, it becomes blind to the abundance that already exists around you. Right now, you could be surrounded by opportunities, by ideas, by connections that could completely transform your financial situation. But your mental filtering system is configured to ignore all of this because you are obsessed with what you do not have. Think with me for a second. Imagine that your brain is like a radio, and it can only tune into one station at a time. If you are tuned into the scarcity station, all you will hear is news about lack problems, limitations, difficulties. And the more you listen to this station, the stronger it becomes, clearer, more dominant in your mind. Now imagine that there is another station, broadcasting all the time, the abundance station. It is always on the air, always transmitting opportunities, synchronicities, ideas, inspirations, but you cannot hear it because you are completely tuned to the wrong frequency. And here comes something absolutely fascinating that neuroscience has discovered in recent decades. Your brain has something called the reticular activating system. It is a neural filter that determines what you perceive and what you ignore in the reality around you. And this filter is programmed by your beliefs, by your dominant thoughts, and especially by your emotional state. So if you live in a state of genuine gratitude, your brain literally begins to filter reality in a different way. It begins to notice opportunities that were always there, but that you could not see. Let me give you a practical example, and you will understand right away. Let us suppose you decide to buy a specific red car. Let us say a model you never paid much attention to before the moment you make that decision and start thinking about that car. Suddenly, you start seeing it everywhere on the street, in the supermarket parking lot, in the neighbor's garage, and you think, wow, what a coincidence, everyone is buying this car now. But the truth is, those cars were always there. What changed was your mental filter. Now your brain considers that car relevant, so it points it out to you all the time. The same thing happens with money and opportunities when you change your internal state from scarcity to gratitude. Your brain begins to filter reality differently. Suddenly you notice a conversation that leads to a business opportunity. You realize a skill you have that can be monetized. You meet people who can open doors. You see solutions where before you only saw problems. It is not magic, it is applied neuroscience. But here is the crucial point that most people do not understand. Gratitude is not simply saying thank you or making a mental list of good things in your life that is superficial and changes nothing at a deep level. Real gratitude is a visceral emotional state. It is a sensation in the body. It is an energetic frequency that you emit and that literally alters your brain chemistry. When you feel genuine gratitude, Your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, two powerful neurotransmitters that not only make you feel good, but also increase your creativity, your ability to solve problems, your willingness to act, and your ability to recognize opportunities. Now think with me for a moment. Most of the time when people talk about gratitude, they talk as if it were a moral obligation, something you should do to be a good person. But that is completely misguided. Gratitude is not about being a good person. Gratitude is about being an intelligent person. It is about hacking your own mental operating system to function in high-performance mode. It is a strategic tool, not a passive virtue. Let us look at this from a completely different perspective. Think of money as energy, because deep down, that is exactly what it is. Money is energy condensed in the form of value. It is a physical representation of energy, of work, of creativity, of utility, and energy always flows from the state of higher tension to the state of lower tension. Always moves, always circulates, never stays still. Now, when you are in a state of scarcity, you are essentially creating a field of resistance around you. It is as if you are emitting a signal that says, I do not have, I need, I am desperate. And that signal creates a vibration of need, of lack. And here is something that may seem contradictory, but that is absolutely true. Energy does not flow toward need. Energy flows toward abundance. Think about nature. Water always flows to where there is already water. Money always flows to where there is already money. Opportunities always appear for those who already have opportunities. This is not injustice. It is physics. It is the natural law of energetic flow. And gratitude is what reverses this dynamic. Because when you are genuinely grateful, you are energetically saying, I already have. I am already abundant. I am already complete. And when you emit that frequency, something surprising happens. You stop repelling and start attracting effortlessly. This does not mean you will stand still waiting for money to fall from the sky. It means that when you act, your actions have much more impact because you are acting from a place of power, not desperation. You are creating from a place of fullness, not emptiness. And that difference is everything. Let me tell you a real story about someone who understood this in practice. There was a guy I met a few years ago. He was completely broke financially. Debts, piling up credit cards, maxed out, literally living as a favor. In a friend's house, he spent years trying to get out of this situation, working several jobs, doing odd gigs, trying to start businesses that never worked out. And the more he tried, the worse it got, because each attempt was loaded with desperation, with fear, with need, until one day he simply gave up. He did not give up working, but gave up the internal struggle, gave up being obsessed with the lack of money, and started practicing something radical every day upon waking before thinking about bills, about debts, about problems. He spent 10 minutes feeling genuine gratitude for things he still had. His health, the sun coming through the window, the water coming out of the tap, the ability to breathe simple things, but real. In the first few days, it seemed forced, artificial. He thought, how can I be grateful if I am broke? But he continued, because he had nothing to lose. And something started to change. Not overnight, but gradually he realized he started having new ideas. Ideas he had never had before. He started meeting different people in unexpected places. He started seeing opportunities in conversations he would have ignored before. In less than 6 months, he was out of debt in 1 year. He was earning more than he had ever earned in his life. And most interestingly, he did not do anything radically different from what he did before. The difference was in the internal state from which he operated. This is what I want you to understand deeply. It is not about doing more. It is about being different internally. because when you are different on the inside, you automatically do different things on the outside, effortlessly, without forcing the right actions, emerge naturally from a correct internal state. And gratitude is the most powerful tool that exists to change this internal state. Now let us go deeper and look at the philosophical side of this. The ancient Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus already understood this principle over 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. He was not talking about superficial positive thinking. He was talking about cultivating a mind that sees abundance where others see lack. He understood that external reality is neutral. It is our thoughts and interpretations that give meaning to things. Epictetus was even more direct. He said it is not things that disturb men, but the opinions they have about those things. Think about this deeply. Two people can be in the same financial situation, exactly with the same numbers in the bank account. One can be in total despair, and the other can be at peace and even optimistic. The difference is not in the situation. It is in the interpretation, in the narrative each one creates about that situation. And here is the radical power of gratitude. It completely changes the narrative you tell yourself about your life. When you practice genuine gratitude, you stop telling the story that you are a victim of circumstances and start telling the story that you are an active participant in a universe that is constantly expanding and creating new possibilities. And when you change the story, you tell yourself, you literally change your reality, because your reality is not determined by objective facts. It is determined by the interpretation you give to those facts. Let us be even more practical about this, because I do not want you to think this is just theory or abstract philosophy. Let us talk about real money, about how gratitude translates into more money in the bank first. When you are grateful, you are naturally more open. You are more receptive. You are not closed in a defensive position, fighting against the world. You are open to receive, to learn, to collaborate. And in the business world, in the world of money, this openness is everything, because opportunities come through people. And people are attracted to those who are open, not to those who are closed and defensive. Second, when you are grateful, you have more creative energy, because your brain is not spending all its energy processing fear, anxiety, and worry. These negative emotional states consume an absurd amount of mental energy. It is like having 10 heavy apps running in the background on your phone. The battery runs out fast, and the device gets slow. But when you are in gratitude, those apps are closed. Your mind becomes free, light fast, and with all that energy released, you can think better, create better, innovate better. Third, and this is crucial, when you are grateful, you make better decisions. Bad financial decisions almost always come from a place of fear, of desperation, of immediate need. You accept that job you hate because you are desperate. You make that risky investment because you want quick money. You spend impulsively because you are trying to fill an emotional void. But when you are in gratitude, you are stable-centered, and from that place, you make strategic, long-term decisions, decisions that actually build wealth. Fourth, when you are genuinely grateful, you become much more attractive as a business partner, as an employee, as a leader. Think about who you want to work with. Someone who is constantly complaining, seeing problems in everything, emanating negativity, or someone who recognizes value, who sees possibilities, who energizes people. Around them, the answer is obvious. And here is the point. People want to give money opportunities, partnerships to those who make them feel good, not in a manipulative way, but in a genuine way. Fifth, gratitude makes you more persistent. And persistence is absolutely essential to create real wealth. Because, let us be honest, the path to financial prosperity is not a straight line. It is full of obstacles, rejections, temporary failures. And if you are operating from a place of scarcity, each rejection seems like a confirmation that you are not good enough. Each failure seems like proof that you will never make it. But when you operate from gratitude, each obstacle is just an obstacle, not a sentence. You continue because you are not depending on external validation to feel complete. You are already complete, so you can keep trying without destroying yourself emotionally. Now, I want you to understand something very important about how gratitude and money connect on an even deeper level. There is a reason why. The richest people in the world often talk about gratitude. Warren Buffett, Oprah, Winfrey, Tony Robbins, all of them consistently talk about the power of gratitude. And it is not because they are trying to sell you cheap self-help. It is because they discovered empirically that it works. They lived it, they tested it, and saw the results. Warren Buffett, one of the richest people on the planet, says he wins the genetic lottery every day just for being born in the United States, in a family that valued education with basic health. He recognizes that everything he built was possible because of a foundation he did not create that was given to him. And this perspective of gratitude does not make him complacent. On the contrary, it makes him work harder because he feels he has a responsibility to use well what was given to him. Oprah Winfrey, who came from extreme poverty, from abuse, from every possible disadvantage, says that keeping a gratitude journal completely changed the trajectory of her life. She wrote every day 5 things for which she was grateful, even in the most difficult moments, and she says this trained her brain to seek the good, to focus on possibilities and not on limitations. And look where she got, not by luck, but by internal consistency. Tony Robbins, who has worked with some of the biggest business leaders in the world, says that the #1 pattern he sees in people of extraordinary success is the ability to live in a state of gratitude, even under pressure, even facing enormous challenges. They find something to be grateful for, and this keeps them in the game, keeps them creative, keeps them resilient. So here is what I want you to absorb completely. Gratitude is not an optional bonus for people who already have. Everything gratitude is the fundamental tool that successful people use to create everything. And the sooner you understand this, the sooner your financial situation begins to truly change. But now let us talk about the elephant in the room, the objection. I know has been in your head since the beginning of this video. Okay, I understand the theory, but how can I be grateful when I am really without money, when bills are overdue, when I do not know how I am going to pay rent next month? How do I practice gratitude when reality is harsh and concrete and financially desperate? This is an honest question and deserves an honest answer. First, let us be clear. Gratitude does not mean passively denying reality. It does not mean pretending everything is okay when it is not. It does not mean putting on a mask of toxic positivity and ignoring real problems that would be stupid and counterproductive. Genuine gratitude means acknowledging the complete reality, not just the part that is missing, but also the part that already exists and that you are ignoring because you are obsessed with what is lacking. So let us do a mental exercise right now. You who are watching me, regardless of your financial situation, you have some things that are absolutely real and valuable. You have eyes that can see. You have ears that can hear. You have a functioning brain that is processing these words right now. You have internet access. You have a device that is playing this video. You have electricity. You probably have a roof over your head right now. You breathed thousands of times today without having to pay for each breath. You had access to clean water, something billions of people throughout history have not had. Now I know what you are thinking. Okay, but that does not pay my bills. And you are right, it does not. But here is the point. When you genuinely acknowledge these things, when you really feel gratitude for them, something changes in your nervous system. You exit survival mode, which is the fight-or-flight mode that closes your creative mind, and you enter a state of relative safety. And in that state, your mind can function at the highest level, can solve problems, can see solutions, can have insights. Because here is the truth. Your brain has two basic modes of operation: survival mode and growth mode. When you are in survival mode, all the blood goes to the brainstem, to the limbic system, to the primitive parts that keep you alive, but that are not creative, not strategic, not innovative. It is the caveman brain fleeing from the lion. It is effective for not dying, but terrible for thriving. But when you are in gratitude, you signal to your brain that you are safe, and blood flows to the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning strategy, creativity, complex problem solving. And it is from this part that the ideas that generate money come. So when you practice gratitude, even being broke, you are not denying the situation. You are putting yourself in the mental state necessary to get out of that situation. This is strategic, not naive. It is the difference between reacting desperately and responding intelligently. Now let us talk about how to apply this concretely and practically, because theory without application is just mental entertainment. Here is what you do, starting today, not tomorrow, not on Monday today, before picking up your phone in the morning, before checking email, before looking at social media, before thinking about bills. You spend 5 minutes. It does not need to be an hour. It does not need to be an elaborate ritual. 5 minutes feeling gratitude for 3 specific things. And here is the key. It cannot be generic. It is no use just thinking, I am grateful for my family. That is too vague, does not create emotional impact. You need to be specific. I am grateful for the smile my son gave me yesterday when I told that silly joke. I am grateful for the sensation of hot water in the shower this morning. I am grateful that my body healed that cut on my finger without me having to do anything consciously. The more specific, the more your brain registers it as real, and the more impact it has on your brain chemistry. And you do not just think, you feel. You close your eyes, you breathe deeply, you bring the memory or sensation into the body. You let the feeling fill your chest. You smile because it is impossible to feel genuine gratitude without the face relaxing, without something softening in the body. This physical state is what changes everything. Then, throughout the day, whenever you pick up your phone before opening any app, you take a micro pause of 10 seconds and think of one thing you are grateful for in that moment. It can be something tiny. The coffee you just had, the comfortable chair where you are sitting, the fact that your legs carry you without you having to think about it. These micro doses of gratitude throughout the day reprogram your mental filter. And at night, before sleeping, you write 3 things. It does not need to be an elaborate journal. It can be in your phone's notes app. It can be on any paper, but you write because writing solidifies the process, makes it concrete, takes it out of mental abstraction, and puts it in the physical world. And when you do this every day without fail, for 30 days, you will notice something surprising. Your reality begins to change, not because the universe magically changed, but because you change the filter through which you perceive reality. But there is another level of practice that is even more powerful, and that few people do: anticipatory gratitude. This means being grateful for things that have not happened yet, but that you are creating. You visualize that financial goal, that opportunity, that business working out, and you feel gratitude now, as if it had already happened. This may seem weird or forced at first, but here is what happens neurologically. When you feel gratitude for something future, your brain cannot distinguish between memory and vivid imagination. So it starts treating that future as something real, as something that is already on the way. And when it treats it as real, it starts actively seeking the necessary pieces to make that reality. This is not mystical law of attraction. This is neuroscience of the reticular activating system. We talked about before, your brain seeks evidence of what you program as important. So if you program abundance as real and feel gratitude for it, your brain will work tirelessly to show you paths to get there. Now, I want to address something that is very important, and that is often misunderstood. Gratitude does not mean passively accepting a bad situation. It does not mean you should be grateful for being broke and then stay broke forever with a smile on your face. That would be insanity. Gratitude is the starting point, not the destination. It is the foundation on which you build, not the ceiling that limits you. Think of it this way: if you want to build a tall building, you need a solid foundation. The taller the building, the deeper and stronger the foundation needs to be. Gratitude is that foundation. When you are firmly planted in gratitude, you can build enormous ambitions, can pursue massive goals, can work tirelessly, because you are not doing this from a place of desperate emptiness, trying to prove something to yourself or others. You are doing it from a place of fullness, of power, of conscious choice. And there is a huge difference between these two motivations. When you act out of desperation, out of need to prove something, you are never satisfied even when you reach the goal, because the goal was not really about the external achievement. It was about filling an internal void. An internal void cannot be filled with external achievements. It is a bottomless pit. But when you act from gratitude, each achievement is genuinely satisfying because you do not need it to feel complete. You are already complete, so the achievement is a bonus, not a necessity. This makes you infinitely more powerful because you can take bigger risks, can try more audacious things, can fail and get up quickly because your self-esteem is not tied to the results. You are abundant regardless of results, so you are free to play the game of life at the highest level. Let us now look at some common blocks that prevent people from really practicing gratitude in a way that changes their relationship with money. The first block is what I call victim identity. Many people have unconsciously built their identity around struggle, around difficulty, around being unlucky, around always having things harder. And this victim identity is comfortable in a strange way because it gives you excuses, gives you something to complain about, gives you a reason why you do not need to take total responsibility for your life. But here is the problem. As long as you cling to this identity, you cannot practice genuine gratitude because gratitude and victimization are mutually exclusive. You cannot be genuinely grateful and at the same time see yourself as a powerless victim of circumstances. So the first step is to recognize that even if unfair things have happened, and they probably have, because life is not fair, even, so you have the power to choose how you respond, and that choice is everything. The second block is comparison. You look at social media, you see people with more money, more success, more things, and you feel behind. You feel you are losing, that you are not enough. And from that place, it is impossible to feel genuine gratitude because you are constantly measuring your reality against an edited and filtered version of other people's reality. And you will always lose in that comparison, always, because you are comparing your messy interior with someone else's polished exterior. The solution is not to stop using social media, although less use certainly helps. The solution is to change the frame. Every time you feel envy or comparison, you immediately transform it into inspiration. You think, if that person achieved this, it means it is possible. And if it is possible for them, it is possible for me too. And then you bring focus back to what you have, to what you can do, to the next step that is in your control. The third block, and this one is subtle but powerful, is the unconscious belief that if you are grateful for what you have, you will stop wanting more. You will become complacent, will lose ambition, hunger, drive. And this is a real fear for many people, especially ambitious people, but this fear is based on a complete misunderstanding. Gratitude does not make you complacent. On the contrary, it gives you sustainable energy to continue because you are not emotionally exhausted, chasing something to fill a void. You are energized, creating something from a place of fullness. Think of the greatest creators in history. Artists, entrepreneurs, innovators, scientists. Many of them worked tirelessly for decades, not because they were trying to prove something or fill a void, but because they were genuinely grateful for the opportunity to create, to contribute, to explore their capabilities. Gratitude fuels sustainable ambition, while scarcity fuels destructive ambition that consumes you. Now, let us connect all of this in a way that is immediately applicable to your specific financial situation. It does not matter where you are now. If you are broke, if you are comfortable but stuck, if you are doing well but want more, the principle is the same. You start where you are with gratitude for what you already have. And from that place, you build strategically. If you are completely without money, your first gratitude practice is for the time you have. Time is the only truly non-renewable resource. You cannot buy more time, but you can use the time you have differently. So you are grateful for time. And then you ask, how can I use this time that was given to me in a way that creates value for other people? Because that is how money enters your life. You create value for others, and value flows back to you in the form of money. If you are stuck in a job you hate, your gratitude practices for the skills that job gave you, even if it is just the skill of dealing with difficult people or meeting deadlines under pressure. These are transferable skills. You are grateful for them, and then you ask, how can I use these skills in a way that gives me more freedom, more control over my time, more alignment with who I really am? If you are already financially comfortable but want more, your gratitude practice is for the security you already have, because that security gives you permission to take calculated risks, to experiment, to try things that someone without that base could not try. You are grateful for the platform you built, and then you ask, what do I really want to create now? Not because I need to, but because I choose to see how gratitude is. Not passive, it is active. It is the fuel for intelligent action, not the substitute for action. Now, I want to give you a perspective that can completely change how you see money. Money is not the final goal. Money is a tool. It is a means, not an end. And when you confuse means with end, you get stuck in a cycle of never having enough. Because there is no number that is enough when you are chasing money for money's sake. You will always want more, will always feel something is missing. But when you see money as a tool, the question changes from how much do I have to what can I do with what I have? And this shift in perspective is liberating, because now money has a clear purpose. And when it has clear purpose, you can be strategic, can plan, can build, without the constant anxiety of never being enough. And ironically, when you stop desperately chasing money and start using it strategically as a tool to create freedom, to help people to build something bigger than you, more money flows in your direction, because you become someone who knows what to do with money. This brings me to a crucial point about the relationship between gratitude and generosity, which are two sides of the same coin. When you are genuinely grateful, you naturally become more generous, not in a way that harms you, but in a way that creates positive cycles. You tip a little better. You help someone who needs it. You share knowledge. You offer value, without expecting immediate return. And what happens is that these actions of generosity reinforce in your mind that you have enough to give. And when you have enough to give, you are operating from abundance, not scarcity. And the universe, which we can call reality, or the law of reciprocity, or simply how human relationships work, responds to this. People want to help those who help people want to give opportunities to those who are generous. Opportunities flow to those who are in the flow of giving and receiving, not to those who are closed, trying to hold every penny in fear. This does not mean you should sacrifice yourself or give beyond your means. It means that within your means you operate with an open hand, not a closed fist. And this energetic difference is felt by everyone around you and changes how they interact with you. Let us now explore the concept of abundance in a deeper way, because many people think abundance means having a lot of things, having a lot of money, having excessive luxury. But that is not what abundance really is. Abundance is a state of consciousness. It is the recognition that there is enough, that you are enough, that life is generous, that opportunities are everywhere. And this state is available to you right now, regardless of the numbers in your bank account. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, understood this deeply. He was one of the most powerful men in the world, with access to unlimited wealth and resources. Yet he wrote extensively about the importance of recognizing that true wealth is internal, not external. He said, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This was not a man preaching poverty. This was a man with everything teaching that the real treasure is the state of mind you cultivate. And this is what I want you to really grasp. You can be financially poor and abundant in consciousness, or financially rich and poor in consciousness. Abundance is not about what you have. It is about how you relate to what you have. It is about whether you see yourself as lacking or complete, as powerless or capable as victim or creator. And gratitude is the bridge that takes you from one state to the other. When you practice deep gratitude, you are training your consciousness to default to abundance, to see possibilities instead of limitations, to feel empowered instead of helpless, to recognize that even in difficult circumstances, you have choices, you have agency, you have the ability to respond creatively. And this shift in consciousness is what precedes every significant change. In external circumstances, think about every major breakthrough in your life, every time things really shifted for the better. If you look back, honestly, you will probably notice that the external change was preceded by an internal change. First, something shifted in how you saw yourself or your situation or what was possible, and then the external reality rearranged itself to match that internal shift. This is not mysticism. This is how human psychology and behavior work. You cannot take actions that are inconsistent with your self-concept. You cannot see opportunities that are outside your mental framework. So when you change the framework, everything else follows. And gratitude is the fastest, most reliable way to shift that framework, because gratitude bypasses the logical, analytical mind that wants to argue about why things cannot change and goes straight to the emotional, intuitive mind that is open to possibility. When you feel grateful, you are in a receptive state. You are in a yes state. You are in an open state. And from that state, new information, new ideas, new connections can enter. Now, I want to talk about something that might sound controversial, but that is absolutely crucial to understand if you are not where you want to be financially. Right now, it is not because you are lazy. It is not because you are unlucky. It is not because the system is rigged against you. Those might be contributing factors, but they are not the root cause. The root cause is that somewhere deep in your subconscious mind you have beliefs about money, about yourself, about what you deserve that are creating your current reality. And I know that might be hard to hear because it sounds like blame, but it is actually empowering, because if your beliefs created your current situation, then changing your beliefs can create a different situation, and you have complete control over your beliefs, even if it does not feel that way. Right now, your beliefs are just thoughts. You have practiced thinking over and over until they became automatic, and any thought that has been practiced can be unpracticed and replaced with a different thought. So here is what I want you to do right now. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what do I really believe about money deep down? Not what you think you should believe. Not what sounds good, but what you actually believe. Do you believe money is hard to come by? Do you believe rich people are greedy or corrupt? Do you believe you have to work extremely hard and sacrifice everything to make money? Do you believe money changes people in negative ways? Do you believe there is not enough to go around? Do you believe you are not smart enough, connected enough, educated enough to be wealthy? Whatever comes up when you ask these questions, honestly, those are the beliefs that are running your financial life. And here is the thing, none of those beliefs are objectively true. They are just stories, perspectives, interpretations that you learned somewhere, probably from your parents, from your culture, from your early experiences, and they are creating a filter through which you see and interact with financial reality. And gratitude is one of the most powerful tools for changing these deep beliefs. Because when you practice gratitude for money, even small amounts of money, you are rewriting the story you tell about money. Instead of money is hard to get, the story becomes money flows to me. Instead of I never have enough, the story becomes I always have what I need. Instead of money is the root of all evil, the story becomes money is a tool for good that I can use wisely. And you rewrite this story not through affirmations that you do not believe, but through actual experiences of gratitude for money you received for value, you created for abundance. You noticed, and over time these experiences accumulate, and the new story becomes more believable, more real, more automatic than the old story. Let me give you a very specific practice that combines everything we have talked about, and that you can start implementing immediately. This is what I call the money gratitude ritual, and it works like this. Every single time money comes into your life in any amount, whether it is your salary, a refund, a gift, a penny you find on the street, you stop for just 5 seconds, and you feel genuine gratitude for that money. You hold it or look at it, and you say, "Thank you for flowing to me," and you feel what it would feel like if this was just the beginning, if money was starting to flow more and more easily. This practice does several things simultaneously. First, it trains your brain to notice money coming in, which most people never do. They only notice money going out, so their brain learns to focus on loss, on scarcity. But when you consciously acknowledge every bit of money that comes in, your brain starts noticing the flow, and what you focus on expands. Second, it creates a positive emotional association with receiving money. Many people have unconscious guilt or discomfort around receiving, and that blocks more from coming. But when you pair receiving with gratitude, that block dissolves. Third, it programs your subconscious mind with the belief that money flows to you easily, and when your subconscious believes that it will find ways to make it true. And here is what is going to happen. If you do this consistently within a few weeks, you will start noticing things you never noticed before. Opportunities that were always there, but you were blind to ideas popping into your head. Conversations leading somewhere unexpected. People offering you things, and it will seem like luck, like coincidence, but it is not. It is your reticular activating system, your mental filter now tuned to abundance instead of scarcity. Now, let us talk about what happens when you combine gratitude with clear intention. Because gratitude alone is powerful, but gratitude plus direction is unstoppable. You need both. You need to be grateful for what is, and you need to be intentional about what you are creating. This is not a contradiction. This is the complete formula. So here is how you integrate both. You start every day with gratitude for what you already have, for your health, for your capabilities, for the resources you currently possess, for the opportunities that are available to you right now. And from that grounded, centered place of gratitude, you then set clear intentions about what you are creating. You visualize your financial goals. You feel what it will feel like to achieve them. You identify the next concrete action you can take today to move toward them. This combination is powerful because gratitude gives you the energy, the clarity, the creativity to act effectively. And intention gives you direction, gives you a target, gives you something to move toward without intention. Gratitude can become passive, can become an excuse to not strive for more, but without gratitude, intention becomes desperate, becomes forced, becomes exhausting together. They create sustainable, motivated action toward meaningful goals. And here is something most people miss. Your financial goals should not just be about numbers. They should be about what those numbers will allow you to do, to experience, to become, to contribute. When your financial goals are just about accumulating money, they lack soul, they lack meaning, and it is very hard to stay motivated towards something that has no deeper meaning. But when your financial goal is about creating freedom to spend time with your family, or about having resources to help causes you care about, or about building something that serves people, or about experiencing life fully, then that goal has juice, has energy, has pull. So as you practice gratitude, also get clear on why you want more money. What will it allow you to do that you cannot do now? What kind of life will it create? What kind of person will you become in the process of creating it? And when you connect with that deeper, why gratitude and action flow naturally. Now I want to address something that stops a lot of people, and that is the fear that if they become too comfortable, too grateful, they will lose their edge, will lose their hunger, will stop pushing themselves. And this is a legitimate fear, especially if you have been using dissatisfaction as your primary motivator. But here is what you need to understand. There are two types of motivation: motivation away from pain and motivation toward pleasure. Most people are primarily motivated by pain. They work hard because they fear being poor. They push themselves because they fear failure. They sacrifice because they fear not being enough. And that type of motivation works, but it is exhausting. It is unsustainable. It burns people out. It creates stress and anxiety and health problems. And eventually, most people who rely solely on pain-based motivation either burn out or give up because they cannot sustain that level of stress. But there is another type of motivation. Motivation toward a compelling vision, toward something you want to create, to experience, to become. And this type of motivation is sustainable, is enjoyable, is energizing. And gratitude shifts you from pain-based motivation to vision-based motivation. When you are grateful, you are not running away from something. You are moving toward something. You are not trying to escape. Lack, you are expanding into abundance. And this shift makes all the difference in sustainability, in enjoyment, in the quality of your life along the way. So no, you will not lose your edge. When you practice gratitude, you will sharpen your edge because you will be operating from a place of strength, not weakness, from abundance, not scarcity, from choice, not desperation. And that makes you far more effective, far more creative, far more resilient. Let me share with you one more story that illustrates this principle perfectly. There was a study done with two groups of entrepreneurs. One group was taught to focus on their problems, on what was wrong, on what needed to be fixed, on gaps and deficiencies. The other group was taught to focus on what was working, on their strengths, on opportunities, on gratitude for progress. Made both groups worked equally hard, both groups were equally intelligent and skilled. But after 6 months, the second group, the gratitude-focused group, had significantly better results, more revenue, more growth, more innovation, more team satisfaction. Why? Because the first group spent so much mental and emotional energy focused on problems that they had less energy available for creative solutions. They were in reactive mode, constantly putting out fires, while the second group, because they were acknowledging what was working, had more mental clarity, more emotional energy, more creativity available to build on their strengths, to spot opportunities to innovate. This is the practical business case for gratitude. It is not soft, it is strategic. And this applies to your personal finances too. If you constantly focus on what you do not have, on your debts, on your limitations, you will make decisions from that place of lack. You will take jobs you hate because you need money. Now you will stay in situations that do not serve you because you fear not having security. You will pass on opportunities because you see only the risk, not the potential. But if you practice gratitude for what you do have, for your current resources, for the skills you possess, for the opportunities available to you, then you will make decisions from abundance, from strength, and those decisions will compound over time into very different outcomes. Now, as we move toward the end of this video, I want to leave you with a framework that ties everything together. A simple way to think about the relationship between gratitude and money that you can remember and apply every single day. This framework has 3 parts. And if you master these 3 parts, your financial life will transform. I promise you that the first part is recognition. You must learn to recognize what you already have, what is already working, what abundance already exists in your life, right? Now, and this is not about lying to yourself about your situation. It is about seeing the complete picture, not just the part that is missing. Most people are experts at seeing what is wrong, what is lacking, what is broken, but amateurs at seeing what is right, what is present, what is working. And this creates a distorted view of reality that leads to distorted decisions. So recognition means consciously, intentionally, deliberately looking for and acknowledging the good that already exists. The second part is appreciation. Once you recognize what you have, you must feel genuine appreciation for it. And this is where most gratitude practices fail, because people do intellectual gratitude. They think the right thoughts, they say the right words, but they do not feel anything. And intellectual gratitude has almost no power. It is the feeling of appreciation that changes your neurochemistry, that shifts your state, that alters your frequency. So when you recognize something good, you must pause, breathe, and actually feel grateful. Feel it in your chest, in your body. Let it create a physical sensation of warmth, of expansion, of well-being. The third part is circulation. Once you recognize and appreciate what you have, you must put it into circulation. You must use it, share it, invest it, grow it, because energy that is hoarded becomes stagnant, becomes dead. But energy that circulates, multiplies, expands, creates more. So if you have money, even a little, you must circulate it wisely. If you have skills, you must use them. If you have knowledge, you must share it. If you have time, you must invest it in creating value. And as you circulate, what you have more flows to you, because you have demonstrated that you are a good steward of resources that you know how to use. what you are given. Recognition, appreciation, circulation. This is the complete cycle of abundance, and gratitude powers every stage of this cycle. Without gratitude, you cannot recognize what you have, because you are blind to it. Without gratitude, you cannot appreciate it, because you take it for granted. Without gratitude, you cannot circulate it effectively, because you operate from fear of loss instead of confidence in flow. So gratitude is not separate from building wealth. It is the foundation of building wealth. And here is something that will blow your mind when you really understand it. The wealthiest people in the world, the people who have created extraordinary financial abundance, almost all of them intuitively or consciously practice this cycle. They recognize opportunities that others miss. They appreciate and feel genuinely grateful for what they have, which keeps them grounded and hungry in a healthy way. And they circulate their resources, constantly investing, giving, building, creating. And the more they circulate, the more flows back to them multiplied. This is not a coincidence. This is not luck. This is the natural law of abundance, and it is available to you right now, regardless of where you are starting from. You can begin this cycle today. With whatever you have, even if it is almost nothing, because the cycle works at every level. Whether you are starting with $10 or $10 million, the principle is exactly the same. Now, I want to address one final objection that I know some of you are thinking, what about systemic issues? What about inequality? What about the fact that the economic system is not fair? That some people have advantages that others do not? That there are real barriers that make it harder for some people to build wealth? And you are absolutely right. Those things are real. They exist. They matter. And I am not suggesting that gratitude is a substitute for working towards systemic change or for acknowledging real injustices. But here is what I am saying. You cannot control the system. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control what advantages or disadvantages you were born with, but you can control your internal state. You can control how you perceive your situation. You can control how you respond. You can control what you do with what you have. And in that sphere of control, gratitude is the most powerful tool you possess. And paradoxically, the people who create change in systems, who overcome barriers, who break through limitations, are almost always people who maintain an internal state of empowerment and gratitude. Despite external circumstances, they do not deny the challenges they face, but they do not let those challenges define what is possible for them. They see obstacles as obstacles, not as stop. Signs, they see limitations as things to work around, not as final verdicts on their potential. So practicing gratitude does not mean ignoring injustice. It means maintaining the internal power and clarity necessary to navigate and ultimately transcend whatever external circumstances you face. And when you do that, when you build wealth from a place of gratitude and empowerment, you are then in a position to help others to create opportunities to be part of the solution to systemic issues. This is what I have seen over and over again. People who build wealth while blaming external circumstances tend to become bitter and isolated. But people who build wealth while maintaining gratitude and awareness of their blessings tend to become generous and impactful. They lift others. They create opportunities. They give back because they never forgot where they came from. And they never lost the understanding that success is built on a foundation that includes luck and help and circumstance as well as effort. So yes, acknowledge the systemic issues, and yes, work to change them, but do not use them as an excuse to stay stuck. Do not use them as a reason to not practice gratitude. Do not use them to justify operating from scarcity consciousness, because that only perpetuates your own suffering and limits your ability to be part of the solution. Now, let me give you something incredibly practical that you can implement immediately to start shifting your relationship with money through gratitude. I call this the Abundance Evidence Journal, and it is simple but transformative. Here is how it works. You get a notebook or open a note on your phone, and every single day you write down 3 pieces of evidence that money is flowing to you, that opportunities are available to you, that abundance is present in your life. And here is the key. These must be specific and real, not vague affirmations. So instead of writing, "Money is flowing to me," you write, "I received my paycheck today," which means I provided value to my employer and was compensated. Or I found $1 in my jacket pocket, which reminded me that money shows up in unexpected ways. Or I saw a job posting that matched my skills, which means opportunities exist. Or someone complimented my work, which means people value what I do, and that value can be monetized. Do you see the difference? You are training your brain to look for and record actual evidence of abundance. Not imagined future abundance, but present moment evidence that things are working, that money is moving, that value is being created and exchanged. And when you do this daily, your reticular activating system gets reprogrammed. It starts automatically scanning for this evidence throughout your day, without you even trying. And after 30 days of doing this consistently, you will have 90 pieces of evidence that abundance is present in your life. 90 concrete examples that contradict the story of scarcity that your mind has been telling, and that accumulated evidence becomes undeniable. It overrides the old programming. It creates a new baseline, a new normal, a new expectation. I have seen people completely transform their financial reality with this one practice alone, because it shifts the fundamental lens through which they see the world, and when the lens changes, everything changes. Now, as we approach the end of this journey together, I want to talk about what is possible for you when you truly embrace gratitude as your financial operating system, when you make it not just something you do, but who you are. What becomes possible is extraordinary, because you step into a completely different game. Most people are playing the scarcity game, the game of competition, of zero-sum thinking, of I win only if you lose, of there is not enough to go around, of I need to grab mine before someone else takes it. And that game is exhausting and ultimately unfulfilling, because even when you win, you are still operating from fear. But when you operate from gratitude, you step into the abundance game, the game of collaboration, of win-win thinking, of there is enough for everyone, of rising tides, lifting all boats, of creating value that multiplies instead of dividing existing value. And this game is energizing, is fulfilling, is sustainable, because you are not fighting against others. You are creating with others. You are not trying to take from a limited pie. You are expanding the pie. And here is what is magical about this shift. When you step into the abundance game, you attract other people who are playing that game. And those people become your partners, your collaborators, your co-creators. And together, you create things that none of you could have created alone. You generate opportunities that benefit everyone involved. You build wealth that is shared and multiplied, not hoarded and defended. This is how the most successful entrepreneurs, the most impactful leaders, the most fulfilled individuals operate. They are not in competition with everyone. They are in collaboration with the right people, and that collaboration is possible only when everyone involved is operating from abundance, from gratitude, from the belief that there is enough and we can create more together. So when you practice gratitude, you are not just changing your individual financial situation. You are changing which game you are playing, which arena you are operating in, which people you are attracting and working with. And that changes everything. Let me paint a picture of what your life can look like 6 months from now, a year from now. if you commit to this practice of gratitude as the foundation of your financial life. Imagine waking up in the morning, and your first thought is not anxiety about bills or stress about money, but genuine appreciation for another day of opportunities. Imagine going through your day, noticing possibilities everywhere, in conversations, in ideas, in unexpected encounters. Imagine feeling excited about your work because you see it as creating value, not as drudgery. You must endure. Imagine making financial decisions from a place of clarity and confidence, not panic and fear. Imagine relationships improving because you are not constantly stressed and irritable about money. Imagine your health improving because you are not carrying chronic financial anxiety in your body. Imagine opportunities appearing that seem like coincidences but are actually the result of your shifted frequency. Imagine money flowing more easily, not because the external world changed, but because you changed. How you interact with it. This is not fantasy. This is what happens when you consistently practice gratitude, when you rewire your mental operating system, when you shift from scarcity to abundance, consciousness. And it is available to you starting right now, today, in this moment, regardless of your current financial situation. The question is, will you do it? Will you commit to this practice not for a day or a week, but for as long as it takes to make it automatic, to make it your default, to make it who you are, because that is what it takes. Real transformation does not happen from a weekend of inspiration. It happens from months of consistent practice, from daily repetition, from refusing to go back to old patterns, even when it is hard, even when results are not immediate, even when your circumstances have not changed yet. And this is where most people fail. They try gratitude for a few days. They do not see money magically appear in their bank account. And they conclude it does not work. And they go back to complaining, to focusing on lack, to operating from scarcity. And they stay stuck forever because they did not give it enough time to work. They did not understand that this is about rewiring neural pathways that have been carved deep over decades, and that takes time and consistency. But if you are willing to commit, if you are willing to practice daily, if you are willing to trust the process, even when you cannot see the results yet, then everything I have described becomes not just possible, but inevitable, because you are working with fundamental laws of psychology, of neuroscience, of human behavior, and those laws are as reliable as gravity. They work every single time, for every single person who applies them correctly. So here is my challenge to you. Commit to 30 days of rigorous gratitude practice. Commit to doing the morning practice, the throughout the day practice, the evening journaling, the money gratitude ritual, the abundance evidence journal. All of it commit to 30 days, without missing a single day. And I promise you that if you do this, your relationship with money will begin to shift. You will start noticing things you never noticed before. You will start feeling different about your situation. You will start taking different actions. And those different actions will begin producing different results. And at the end of those 30 days, you will have a choice. You can either continue and watch the transformation accelerate and compound, or you can go back to your old ways and watch your situation return to its previous state. But I am willing to bet that once you experience the shift, even in a small way, you will never want to go back, because even a taste of operating from abundance is so much better than living in scarcity that there is no comparison. Now let me tie together all the philosophical threads we have explored throughout this video, because I want you to see how ancient wisdom and modern science converge on this truth about gratitude and abundance. The Stoics taught us that our experience of reality is shaped by our judgments about reality, not by reality itself. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this." and you will find strength. This is the same principle we discussed about the reticular activating system, about how your internal state filters what you perceive externally. Buddhism teaches that suffering comes from craving from attachment to what we do not have, and that liberation comes from acceptance from being present with what is. This is the same principle we discussed about gratitude as the antidote to the suffering of scarcity consciousness. When you are genuinely grateful for what is, you are liberated from the torture of constantly wanting what is not. Christianity teaches that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, and that gratitude is central to spiritual life. Give thanks in all circumstances. This is the same principle we discussed about anticipatory gratitude, about feeling thankful for the abundance that is coming as if it were already here, because that feeling creates the frequency that attracts it. Ancient Hermetic philosophy teaches as above, so below, as within, so without meaning that external reality mirrors internal reality. This is the same principle we discussed about how your internal state of gratitude or scarcity creates your external financial circumstances. Modern neuroscience confirms all of this with empirical evidence showing us exactly how gratitude changes brain structure, how it affects the reticular activating system, how it influences decision-making, how it impacts relationships and opportunities, all of which directly affect financial outcomes. So, whether you approach this from ancient wisdom or modern science, from spiritual practice or pragmatic psychology, the conclusion is the same. Gratitude is not optional for creating abundance. Gratitude is foundational. Gratitude is the key, and money is just one form of abundance that flows naturally when you unlock this key. And here is the beautiful thing. Once you understand how to use gratitude to transform your relationship with money, you can use the same principle to transform every other area of your life. Your relationships, your health, your career, your sense of purpose, your inner peace. Because gratitude is universal. It works everywhere. It applies to everything. It is the master key that opens all doors. So what I am really giving you here is not just a method for making more money. I am giving you a life philosophy, a way of being, a path to fulfillment that happens to include financial abundance as one of its natural byproducts. And that is why this is so much more valuable than any get-rich-quick scheme or financial hack, because those things might work temporarily, but this creates lasting transformation at the deepest level of who you are. So here is what I want you to do right now, in this moment, before you click away, before you get distracted, before you forget everything you just heard. I want you to make a decision, a real decision, not a wish, not a hope, but a commitment. Commit to yourself that you are going to practice gratitude every single day for the next 30 days. Commit that you are going to implement the specific practices I shared with you: the morning gratitude, the micro doses throughout the day, the evening journaling, the money gratitude ritual, the abundance evidence journal. Commit that you are going to do this no matter what, regardless of whether you see immediate results, regardless of whether it feels natural at first, regardless of whether your circumstances change right away. And if you make that commitment, if you follow through on it, I promise you that 30 days from now, you will be a different person. You will see the world differently. You will feel differently. You will act differently. And those differences will begin manifesting in your external reality, including your bank account. And if you want support in this journey, if you want to be part of a community of people who are all committed to this path of conscious abundance, then subscribe to this channel right now, because every week I create content that reinforces these principles, that gives you new practices, that helps you stay on track, that reminds you of what is possible when you operate from gratitude instead of scarcity. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you never miss a video, because each video builds on the last. Each one adds another layer, another tool, another insight that makes your transformation more complete, more permanent, more powerful. And look, the truth is most people who watch this video will nod along, will think, yeah, that makes sense, and then will do absolutely nothing. They will go back to their old patterns, their old complaints, their old scarcity consciousness, and their lives will stay exactly the same. And that is fine. That is their choice. But I do not think you are most people. I think if you watched this entire video all the way to the end, you are someone who is truly ready for change, truly committed to growth, truly willing to do what it takes. So prove that you are different. Prove that you are serious. Prove that you are ready. Subscribe to this channel right now as a public declaration to yourself that you are choosing the path of abundance, that you are choosing transformation, that you are choosing gratitude as your operating system, and then leave a comment below telling me one thing you are grateful for right now, one specific thing that you appreciate about your life, about your situation, about your journey, because that simple act of writing it down, of declaring it publicly, will be the first step of your new practice, will activate the process, will set the transformation in motion. And if you do this, if you subscribe and comment and commit, I will be here every week, supporting you, challenging you, inspiring you, giving you the tools and the truth that will make your financial transformation not just possible, but inevitable. Because you deserve abundance, you deserve prosperity, you deserve to live without the constant stress and fear about money. And the path to that life begins with a simple shift, with one powerful practice, with the decision to embrace gratitude as the key that unlocks everything. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being open. Thank you for being willing to consider that maybe, just maybe, there is a completely different way to relate to money than what you have been taught. And I will see you in the next video, where we will go even deeper into how to build lasting wealth from a foundation of consciousness and intention. Until then, practice gratitude every single day. Watch how your world begins to change, and remember, the money you want is not out there somewhere waiting to be found. It is already on its way to you, right? Now, and gratitude is what speeds up its arrival. See you soon.